Have you ever been in a debate where you just know you're right, but you can't quite find the words to prove it? Well, today, we're going to unlock the secret to building arguments that are so well structured, they're practically bulletproof. So, what is that secret? Is it about having more facts than the other person? Is it about having the loudest voice? Or maybe some surprising piece of data nobody's ever heard of? Nope. It's actually something much, much more fundamental than all that. You see, the secret isn't just about the raw materials, the facts you bring to the table. It's about the structure you use to connect them. It's the blueprint of your reasoning. Without it, you just have a pile of information. With it, you have a solid case. And that blueprint has a name: logic. All right, let's dive right in. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Logic? Isn't that something for, philosophers or mathematicians? But the truth is, these patterns of thinking are everywhere. You use them every single day to make decisions, probably without even realizing it. At the very heart of all this is something called an argument form. The best way to think of it is like a recipe. If your ingredients, which we call premises, are good and you follow the recipe exactly, you're absolutely guaranteed to get a perfect result, a true conclusion, every single time. So, to get you started building and taking apart arguments like a pro, we're going to add two of the most powerful and reliable tools you can have to your mental toolkit. First up, let's meet Modus Ponens. I want you to think of this tool as the builder. It's all about moving forward, taking a rule you know is true, applying it to a real situation, and building a solid conclusion from there. Yeah, the fancy Latin name for it translates to the method of affirming. And that's all it is, really. It's a straightforward way of saying, yep, this condition was met, so yep, we can confidently say this other thing happened because of it. And the structure itself is just beautifully simple. It goes like this. First, you have a rule. If P happens, then Q will happen. Second, you observe that P actually happens. So, what's the only possible conclusion? Well, Q must be true. It's a straight line from cause to effect. Let's make this real. Let's say our rule is, if a student studies regularly, they will pass the exam. That's our if P, then Q. Then we confirm, this student did in fact study regularly. So P is true. The unavoidable conclusion? They passed the exam. Q must be true. See how that works? Scientists use this constantly. They'll have a hypothesis like, if this chemical reacts with oxygen, it will produce heat. They run the experiment, they observe the reaction, A happens, and so they can confirm their hypothesis when, sure enough, heat is produced. And we all use this exact same logic all the time without even thinking about it. If I set my alarm, I'll wake up on time. You set your alarm, so you fully expect to wake up on time. It's that simple, forward-moving logic that kind of runs our entire day. Okay, on to our second tool, Modus Tollens. Now, if Modus Ponens was our builder, constructing arguments forward, I want you to think of Modus Tollens as the detective. It works backward to eliminate possibilities and figure out what really happened. Its formal name is the method of denying. And instead of confirming that a cause happened, this time we start by denying the expected outcome. And that little act of denial tells us something incredibly important about what started the whole chain of events. Now, this is where it gets really cool. The structure starts with the exact same rule. If P, then Q. But this time, the result, Q, doesn't happen. It's a no-show. This leads us to an absolutely ironclad conclusion. P must be false. That initial condition just could not have been met. Here's a super simple example we've all lived through. The rule is, if the device has power, P, it will turn on Q. You hit the power button and nothing. The device does not turn on. That's not Q. So what can you conclude with 100% certainty? It doesn't have power, not P. You just diagnosed the problem. In the medical world, this is a life-saving tool. A doctor knows. If a patient has malaria, this test will come back positive. So when the test comes back negative, that's not Q, the doctor can confidently rule out malaria, not P. It is absolutely fundamental to how diagnoses work. Oh, and programmers, they live and breathe this stuff when they're debugging code. Their rule is, if the software is installed correctly, it'll run without errors. Then they see a whole screen full of errors, not Q, so they know instantly the installation wasn't right, not P. It tells them exactly where to start looking. So we have our builder and we have our detective, and they might seem like total opposites, but they're not. They're really just two sides of the same logical coin, and you need both of them to get a complete picture of any argument. So let's just put them side by side. Modus Ponens, our builder, moves forward. It affirms a cause to prove a result. It confirms that a condition was met. But Modus Tollens, our detective, moves backward. It denies a result to disprove a cause. It eliminates a false assumption. One confirms what is, the other rules out what isn't. Okay, so we've just added Modus Ponens and Modus Tollens to your logical toolkit. But why does mastering these two simple forms give you such a massive advantage in the way you think and argue? Because this is the real power. With these tools, you're not just hearing arguments anymore, you're seeing the blueprint behind them. You can build your own points from the ground up on a solid foundation. You can spot the weak points and fallacies in someone else's reasoning, and it all leads to making more rational choices, and honestly, just thinking with more clarity and confidence. You know, these logical structures aren't just some abstract exercises for a classroom. They are a practical, powerful way to make sense of reality. Understanding them is like getting a new pair of glasses that lets you see the world and your place in it with so much more clarity. So there's really only one question left. Now that you have the tools to build and deconstruct arguments with precision, whose argument are you going to check first?